My name is Richard Dodds, and this is The Branch at Elkhorn Outdoors.
Hello and welcome back to The Branch at Elkhorn Outdoors. My name is Chris Peltz, and my co-host here with Mr. Richard Dodds, who is visiting family. And Richard, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Yeah, doing well. Excited about the program and excited about our guest. And if it's all right, we'll just jump right into that, because today we have Mr. Richard Burdon, who is visiting with us from New Zealand with Glen Dene Hunting and Fishing. Richard, how are you doing today?
Oh, very good. It's June down here, so it's winter time, but we've got hunters out today chasing red stags, and the guys are looking at doing a heli hunt maybe later today if the cloud lifts. So it's a good time of year for us. There's not too much snow in the high country, and so you can move around pretty well.
Right.
It's kind of nice to have a little bit of hunting going on, is it? Kind of explain, Richard, how that's working, where your hunters are coming from right now.
Well, our international borders are closed to everyone except Australia. So about a month ago, we've opened up to the Australian, and that's been fantastic. The Australians are good, keen hunters. The Shooter magazine in Australia sends out about 23,000 copies every month. And so there's quite a big hunting group in Australia. A lot of Eastern European people moved to Australia and they brought their hunting culture. Of course, there's a lot of game in Australia. And so like New Zealanders, we're very lucky we can hunt. We've got very good rules around hunting, and so it's a very strong part of New Zealand's and Australia well-being and
yeah. So much of your culture, you guys you get to hunt 12 months out of the year if you really wanted to, but everybody enjoys the meat. I mean, your hunting isn't really just a special occasion. A lot of it is your culture and how you guys have grown up and how you've lived your whole life, isn't it?
Very much, Dick, and it's part of our management program. So everyone loves feeding their families with venison. Red deer is such a beautiful venison to eat. We call it venison, and people just love getting out hunting. There's nothing better than for your own well-being, getting out on the hills and hunting game for a day.
Yeah, how as we all know, and how you and I talk a lot. How has it been? I know it's been very, very hard and very tough to kind of put one foot in front of the other and keep moving. How are you guys doing down there?
It's been really tough for a lot of outfitters. A lot of them have had to find other things to do, and so like a lot of people who are passionate about hunting, it's hard to build a business year round on it. So most of them do have other skills. Most of our guides are either builders or electricians or involved in other aspects. The tourism industry has been hit extremely hard, where it was the number one earner for New Zealand. It was even higher than agriculture, and we're an agricultural based nation. So we've all had to reinvent ourselves. There's no subsidies because being a small population, we've struggled to have people getting subsidised. So everyone's actually had to go and get out there, reinvent themselves, and get on with it. And so,
I'm sorry to mean to interrupt you, but you and I have talked about it a lot because of the heritage and the background of your farm and your station. Maybe if you could talk a little bit about that, your grandfather and how he started, and I just had a quick question too. And I've talked with other ranchers. I personally think it is harder nowadays to keep the land together than it was when your grandfather put it all together. But I guess all problems are relative, aren't they?
They are. My grandfather, he bought the property in 1929, just at the start of the recession, and so his first year was his toughest year, and it was an amazing time for him. But he was so excited about this new property and the fact that he bought this 45,000 acres of land at the age of 29 years old, and he moved there, and he just loved the country around him because he was a keen fisherman. And the property lay well in between the two lakes, and you get a nice little microclimate, and he'd learnt this on some of the previous properties he'd worked on and owned. And so this was a stepping stone. Yeah.
He had to have a really quality vision of what that land would become, because in his wildest dreams, I don't think it would be, you guys are world known now. I mean, your business is known throughout the world. You hunt with people from a lot of different countries, and I imagine how hard that would be to even think about that. But a lot of the growth that's came in the last 10 years, 15 years is because of your dad and your efforts.
Yes, we're all passionate about farming and ranching down here, and that's what keeps us on the land. And bringing in the hunting has helped make us sustainable. So we're doing a whole lot of amazing things. We're surrounded by other ranches, and it's a bit like living in Wyoming these days. Where you've either got a celebrity or someone famous next door living to you. So it's a bit of a iconic place to live down where we are, but it's very special, and that's why we work hard and we love what we do, and that's all comes with it, and that's we're determined. And our children talk about it all the time with us because they see, that is a challenge. My daughter Georgie's doing a study at the moment in school on our hunting business and ways that she sees that we can adapt if the borders don't open again for another year. My son's been involved in writing a paper about what is the future of the high country. The high country in New Zealand is probably the most special part of New Zealand because of the beautiful scenery and the lakes and the mountains, and where we live is really quite special, I suppose you'd say.
What kind of elevation range do you have there on the ranch?
Well, talking in feet, we're about 1,200 feet above sea level. The lake that's just behind you there, Chris, is 1,200 feet deep. So it's a classic glacial lake. And then the top of the property is just under 5,000 feet. So it's got it's true mountain country with steep ridges, but it's gentle enough to climb around and walk around, and that's what makes the hunting on it so great, because there's access up onto the tops with side by sides, and yet you can still wander down most of the valleys and through the ridges, and it makes a pretty cool experience.
I think what's really unique, and this is from me being a rookie when I first came over there, was they have the ability to hunt to everybody's capabilities. Richard makes such effort there'll be people that are mountain goats like Dan, and then there'll be older hunters that you have to adjust out a little bit, and you guys excel at that. And that's why I don't think people, I know that they think it's a long ways away, but it really isn't nowadays. The travel is something that you acquire, that travel bug, I guess. But tell us a little bit about where you think the hunting is going to go.
Well, Air New Zealand, who operate out of San Fran, and they used to go out of Houston and Seattle, Chicago, and they were just opening flights out of New York. I think there was like 1 billion people a year traveling around the world. People want to travel and they want to experience new things, and New Zealand has a lot to offer, and it was often it was high on people's bucket lists to get to New Zealand. Often they'd travel everywhere else and say, I'll get to New Zealand one day, but everyone who does come here always wish they came here when they're a bit younger, because it's such an adventure playground, with the fishing in the mountains and the glaciers and the walks and the biking. It's a real outdoor person's paradise. So I think New Zealand's getting easier to get to. I mean, the fact that you can jump on a plane normally at 10 o'clock at night in LA, and you'll basically arrive into Auckland 6 o'clock in the morning. We're 19 hours ahead, so you gain a whole day when you get here, and you start your journey at the start of a day, which to me makes it a fantastic and easy way to travel. And the planes are getting more comfortable, and Air New Zealand offer a wonderful service. And we work with.
Do you have somebody that lines up your travel for you?
Yes, we use Esplanade Travel. They're based up in Boston, and they've been working closely with Air New Zealand for the last 50 years, and they're a fantastic company, and they'll set up a bit of travel insurance, which we recommend. The last thing you need to do is break an ankle or something, or trip over the week before, and then you don't have your ticket. So, tickets can range between $1,400 to $2,000, depending on what the clients are wanting. And then there's 3 different economy stages, so you can go premium economy or business class, and they all are very reasonably affordable.
Yeah. That's something that I think right now airlines and things are going to be, as they open up, they're going to be trying to sell seats as well. Very quickly, for those who are tuning in, we are talking with Richard Burdon from Glen Dene Hunting and Fishing over in New Zealand. If you have any comments or questions you'd like to leave, go ahead and do that. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know where you're listening from as well. We're always excited to hear from those who tune in and listen. If you haven't already, be sure and hit that subscribe button and like and share as well. We appreciate that. Also, if you want more information, you can email us at elkhornoutfitters@gmail.com, and we'll be happy to provide you more information about what we're talking about. Glen Dene Hunting over in New Zealand with Richard Burdon. We are just excited to have him here. And so for those who are listening, if you have any comments, be sure and leave that and join the conversation as we talk about not only the culture, but the hunting, and I think we'll get into some fishing as well over with Glen Dene Hunting and Fishing in New Zealand. Go ahead, Dick. You got some.
That I think what was hard for me to at first was that you think that travel is a long way, and a lot of times this is probably the outdoors person's bucket list hunt, and it's a long ways to travel to, but it's so worth it because of, one, you're there, the people you get to meet, and the country will take your breath away. And Richard and Sarah are just such gracious hosts. I mean, I was from the old school camp that we hunted until dark and came in and it was, eat and go to bed. And down there, it's more traditional and it's an event. It's a really great event. You still hunt your butt off, but it's hard to explain. Richard and Sarah, they have an excellent cook, and I'll let Richard tell about how that works, because they have a new lodge, and we've talked about that new lodge for 5 years, and to see it come to fruition is just a special deal. But go ahead, Richard, tell us about the lodge, and then we'll get talking about your dome homes too.
Well, we've just opened the new lodge. It's called Cross Hill, and the geodomes. And so it's been a pretty scary experience. In March last year, we all got shut down and had to be locked down, and everyone said, what are you going to do? How are you going to carry on? And I suppose, Dick, as we've said, this has been a dream for us to build the right type of unique. We wanted something unique and special for our hunters, and we've been listening to the hunters and what they wanted, and more of the wives wanted to come to New Zealand, and so it was about accommodating everyone's desires and stuff like that. So we've Sarah and I love family, and we like sitting down, sharing stories and experiences, and so we do try and get people up early, get them out the door with a packed lunch, and get them out into the mountains. But at the end of the day, we do like people together and have a nice dinner and sit around the table and share those stories. And so for us, it is about getting everyone around the table in the evenings and having a more of a formal get together and a wind down, and then normally by 9:30, 10, everyone's in bed, tucked up and ready for another day. So it's not a big night, but and sometimes hunters are in late because they're still out hunting. Well, there's no problems there because but we where we can, we try and get everyone around the table. And then some guys are away on wilderness hunts, and some are at tar camp, and so people are coming and going, and it's about building a program around the clients and
why don't you tell us about your wilderness camp, the tar hunts, how that works?
Well, that's about 2.5 hours north of us, and in New Zealand, many people have probably heard, the tar population has exploded in the last 5 years, and the Department of Conservation have put in a pretty big program to cull the tar, and they're still working on that a wee bit, but we're all confident that that it needed a good long-term plan to be put in place. The private properties were always doing tar management plans, and so there's still plenty of good tar in the backcountry. The hunters that have been out, the New Zealand hunters that have been out this winter, are seeing reasonably good bulls and good numbers. So we're actually thinking, because we've got no predators in New Zealand, this is actually going to be a good long-term strategy, and we've actually it's been a good thing for the hunters in general, because it created controversy, it pulled the hunters together, and we've now got I think it's about a 35 strong tar liaison committee that work closely with the Department of Conservation on managing the tar. So the area where we go tar hunting has got fantastic tar, and it's a great overnight experience, and the property's 50,000 acres, and you stay in a backcountry hut, and you get to see some really neat things when you go up there, the area where the red deer were first released and stuff like that. So it's
maybe explain how Himalayan tar got to New Zealand. That's an awful interesting story.
The Himalayan tar were a gift from the Duke of Bedford, who owned Woburn Abbey, and they came to New Zealand, and of course they thrived, and where the population in the Himalayas today are probably at risk, and they've done extremely well in New Zealand, and so we're very grateful of the early acclimatization societies that actually imported some of these beautiful game animals, and you couldn't ask for a better species than the Himalayan tar. They're the most amazing, gracious animals with their manes that flow down. Of course, that picture just there is in February, and it's interesting enough, they are a bit lower down in February, and their rut is later in May, June. So that's how we can adapt for different hunters. The different times a year. Of course, the manes are biggest in May, June, but they're just such a great trophy. I would highly recommend doing a tahr hunt if you're coming to New Zealand. It's a great experience.
So, how many other of the animals that you guys are hunting are imported, or as opposed to have come in, like the chamois? I'm assuming are not native to New Zealand.
Yeah, so that's right, Chris. So they were the only mammal in New Zealand was a bat, and so New Zealand's got this amazing bird life and down there, and as hunters, we love birds, and seeing falcon and ducks and out in nature when you're hunting is quite special. So all the game animals were introduced. The red deer were introduced, and by the 50s, they were right out of control. And that's another whole story about how deer evolved in New Zealand. But we've got the elk. Roosevelt gifted some elk to New Zealand, President Roosevelt, and so that was a fantastic. We had moose introduced. Sadly, the moose died out. That they would have been an amazing animal. They were put into the George Sound way down in Fiordland, and it probably wasn't the appropriate climate. So the last one was seen in about 1970. We've got sika deer and samba deer in the North Island. So the chamois and tahr are just in the South Island. We've got some whitetail just in a couple of areas in New Zealand, notably down in Stewart Island and then up in Glenorchy area, which is in the South Island above Queenstown. So there's some the game are now managed under the Game Animal Council, which is an act of Parliament, and they work with the Department of Conservation on managing game. So this is a really exciting move for New Zealand, that we've got a Game Animal Council set up and established to help manage game, whereas red deer are still under a pest category. So that's part of the reason why we can hunt 12 months of the year and stuff like that, because there's no predators and the game has to be managed. And so part of that management plan is why we use helicopters a lot in New Zealand, and we can talk about that a bit later as well.
Yeah, well, that's just a management tool, like our pickup trucks were on our ranches in Colorado. It's just the best way to get around. Everybody thinks it's shooting out of the helicopter, and that's the farthest thing from it. It's just a transportation method to get you into some of that beautiful backcountry, isn't it? That's
right, Dick. And in some of the areas are no fly zones or landing zones. 40% of the South Island is in conservation land, so some of it's pretty mountainous, and the access into it is very limited and restricted. So we use helicopters for access into the backcountry, and
right.
That's why the guys up in the Yukon and Canada love having Kiwi boys guiding for them up there, because they know how to walk, and they just watch out if you get a young 24-year-old fresh New Zealand mountain guide. You have to put stones in his back to slow him down.
Yeah, I've experienced that myself, and when he was in Colorado, and a young man there that about wore everybody out, I think. Dick Dodds, we had a question come in about I think it said heli hunting or fishing. I don't know if that's kind of what you're just talking about, getting you somewhere for fishing, or
both. Richard offers both. The fishing, the fly fishing, is you can't even explain it until you do it. And Richard was gracious. The first time I went down to New Zealand, I got to do everything on my bucket list. I did that. I went up with the helicopters. We floated the rivers in a drift boat and fly fished. It was just the most amazing experience, and it's really, like I said, it's hard. It sounds hard to get there, but it really isn't. It can be seamless and travel. And as we talk for the future, this is just our introduction, but we'll go through those helpful tips to get everybody lined up and make their experience what it is. what Richard, we touched on a little bit about is this is a great couples hunt. And just because Sarah, first time I talked to her, she said tomorrow all the wives are going on a BMW. I thought, well, are they going to drive someplace and BMW? And that was Sarah saying it's a brisk morning walk. And it takes you a day. When you get to New Zealand, it takes just a day to get acclimated to the pace of life and to see what's really important. And they are really good at what they do. They're so gracious and make you feel welcome right off the bat, that, you know, and that's what good outfitters do. They know how to walk that line because they care about the people. And Richard, maybe you can tell us a little bit about the red stags too, on that type of hunt, what you offer.
I'll just chat a wee bit more first, Dick, on the heli hunting to answer that question. The heli fishing is a really neat experience. To get into some of these backcountry rivers takes up to 8 hours to walk in over a pass, and so there's a number of companies that we work with that have heli concessions, and they're certified operators, and so some of those areas are just very special, pristine, clear rivers, and you can fish. Typically, it's a catch and release fly fishing experience, and I can recommend that. That's a great day. There's so many different options available, but depends if you're wanting brown trout. There's some areas on the west coast that are more brown trout, but and different types of rivers. So we're very lucky in the fact that we've got these two beautiful lakes, and they've all got beautiful rivers all flowing into them, like the Hunter, the Dingle, the Mackerel, the Wilkin, and the Young. They're all world-class fishing lodge type rivers. And so the drift fishing is also another option where you can actually heli into the backcountry with a drift boat and then fish out. So there's different ways to do that fishing, and a lot of our
that sounds amazing. I mean, I can't imagine. Just very quickly, Bonnie Highsmith said that her husband was in 2019 went on his dream trip there, from what I understand. So we got some comments coming in. Keep it coming. We appreciate that. Any questions, or anybody wants to join the conversation, go ahead and do so in the comments. And of course, be sure and check out GlenDeneHunting.com, for the website, with everything that they've got going on there as well. And of course, just talking about the heli fishing and flying into some very remote places and fishing, that sounds like a dream for sure for me. But it's so much more, I guess, even with that, as you were getting ready to get into some of the other aspects of what you guys offer.
One of the dream trips for heli fishing is to go and do some of the west coast rivers, and then you pop out to the coast and get a couple of crayfish for lunch and cook them on the barbecue, and then normally after an hour of enjoying crayfish, and it's time to get back in the helicopter and move on, and because there's a few sandflies. We do have sandflies in New Zealand, so it's not just paradise everywhere, but
a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I always think back of when Tim and Kevin and those guys from Fargo took your mom and dad and they took a helicopter up and had a big picnic on top of a glacier, and then went and pulled crab pots, didn't they, for lunch?
Yes, yeah, and that's a great day. So we use squirrel helicopters, so squirrel, very high safety rating, and landing on a glacier, doing Milford Sound. Milford Sound's like the eighth wonder of the world. These fjords that come out of the mountains, straight out up to, from the fjords up to 4,000 feet, and it's a 300 sort of type inch rainfall, and you've got these amazing waterfalls cascading down off the mountains, and it's just a special part of New Zealand. And to tie that in with a crayfish to lunch and landing on the glaciers, it's just a special day out.
We think of crayfish back home, and they're about this big. Your crayfish are like grabbing a baby pig. They're
Yeah.
huge down there. I mean, they'd come up and it was like you grabbed a 10-pound pig. You know, it's amazing how big they were.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
the red stag, I think Richard had asked you about the red stag hunts that you guys do, and what's involved there.
Well, the classic is we're completely opposite. So our red stag hunting doesn't clash at all with the American hunting season, because being the opposite ends of the world. So our stag hunting starts in mid-February and goes through to the end of July, when early August, they cast their antlers. The red stags are some of the best in the world, in the fact that we do have an amazing genetic lineup of deer in New Zealand, which have based around a velvet and venison history, with red deer being imported from all over the world. And so we get, with velvet, you get paid per kilogram. So there's some amazing genetics being brought into New Zealand, and that's had an influence on the red deer, hence why we've got some of the most amazing genetics. And of course, red deer have adapted to our environment so well in New Zealand that they, as a wild population, they out in the 1950s, they got so out of control. That's my daughter Georgie, with one of her first red deer hunts that she did when she was 13 years old. So
she's a good hunter already.
Yeah, no, we're very proud of her. She's about to do Outward Bound, which is a 21-day wilderness trip into the wilderness, and you've got to spend 48 hours by yourself out in the wilderness, and swimming and running and living off the land for 21 days. So that's a great outdoor course. And so for New Zealanders, that's part of your heritage and growing up. And so we're very proud of her.
Yeah, I think when I met Georgie, she was probably 12 or 13, maybe, I think. And Charlie was, I'm not sure anymore. I don't remember very good.
Well, they're all growing up, and they love being part of our business. But the red stags are a very gracious animal, and we love no one is the type of one sort of type. So we don't. I suppose with the whitetail hunter, you talk typical, non-typical, and with elk, you talk about the different. So in New Zealand with the red stags, they typically have a 40-inch beam, but they can be with that. It's a beautiful stag, which is nice and wide. We've got brow bay and trays, which is similar to an elk. Then you've got your the antlers up on top. So that depends on the genetics a wee bit, but the red stags are all quite unique, and that's one of the things that I think many people love about the red stags, is that they're very much their own.
How long have you had the red stags on your property? How long have they been there?
The early deer that were introduced on our property were called the Otago Reds, and they were a beautiful. They originated from the Scottish Highlands, and so they're so there's trophy hunting going back to the 1880s, where English aristocrats would come all the way from England to go hunting, and there's some amazing heads that were shot up in the headwaters of some of these valleys, and some amazing stories about some of the early deer that were harvested. And by about 1950, the deer became out of control, and so what evolved from there was a venison exports, and then into the 1970s we started farming deer, and it's a really interesting story about how deer were one of the last animals that have been turned from a wild animal into a farmed animal, and that is part of the New Zealand story, and we're pretty proud of what our deer genetics down in New Zealand, because they've just adapted so well to our environment. But we do have to manage them, and we look at hunting is another sustainable way of keeping our property in our family for generations to come, because it becomes helps us to remain sustainable. Just being a sheep farmer doesn't really cut it. So we're doing all sorts of things on the property to keep it in the family.
Sure. And the farm station has been in the family for 90 years, hasn't it now?
Yeah. So we're the kids are knocking on the door saying, they're both keen to be involved in farming, and so that's fantastic. It's always good when the next generation want to be involved.
Our next time when we get together, how we talked, I would love to have Georgie and everybody on, Sarah, everybody, so that would be good, great. Just to kind of talk about that. What's that?
I'd struggle with the word in, Dick.
So, yeah, that would be fun. So,
yeah, absolutely. So, just very quickly on earlier, Dick had brought up about the cooking and the food and things. What are some of the dishes that probably are the most popular? I've got to ask. I'm a foodie. I love food. So, what are some of the favorite dishes, and what's some of the things? I mean, I'm assuming venison from what you've said already.
Definitely venison, Chris. The big thing is we love to utilize what the hunters have killed. So we've got chamois is a great dish. Cooked venison, and you can cook venison so many different ways. We've got a great Korean recipe called venison bulgogi. We use the back straps during the week. The pizza night, we use venison. We make a lot of salamis, Hungarian sausage, and stuff like that. So we love to try and give everyone a neat experience. And a lot of our clients will take venison back to the States. They're allowed to take up to 50 pounds of venison. And so our chefs are really good at utilizing what's around us. And it's the thing that blows most people away is that we all use natural foods in New Zealand. And so it's we use what we can grow locally off the land, and people just love it. Well, not everyone loves whitebait. That's a New Zealand delicacy.
That's awesome. Yeah, whitebait is awesome.
Yeah, but we've got lots of we've got a lot of really unique food in New Zealand, and so I suppose we're a wee bit more traditional in how we cook it. So that's why we like sharing it. And dinner time is one of those times where you actually slow down and you enjoy the food. Many of our clients from all over the world live such busy lives that often they just don't have that opportunity to sit around a table and enjoy some great cooking. And of course, you've got beautiful puddings like pavlovas, which are a New Zealand delicacy. The venison pie. You guys live on pumpkin pies. Well, our pies down in New Zealand are quite more like meat pies, and so that's quite a new thing. And we like to share our experiences. So we're all foodies down here, and
What was the name of that meat pie place you always took me to? And the town was about 25 miles away. We stopped.
Fairly, the Fairly Bakehouse.
Oh my God, was that? I mean, you couldn't walk out of there with that's another thing that everybody should experience once too.
Yeah, right. That's
just
great.
So good.
Yeah. You guys provide the gear. That was one of the questions that came in the comments, is asking about gear. How much gear does people need to bring, or do you guys provide a lot of the gear that's necessary?
We can provide all the gear that's necessary, and so the key thing is bring good footwear to New Zealand. When you come through customs, be ready to declare it. Being very high on biosecurity, they'll want to look at that. And so make sure the scrub clean and ready to go.
Okay.
Why don't you
Yeah.
Why don't you run through like just a normal hunter day, how that all works?
Yeah. Well, the key thing is when the clients first arrive, we get them set up the night before, so we get them all briefed up on. We go to the range and get them shooting at the rifles, and you can either bring your own rifle or use one of ours, or fishing rods, and we'll get them all briefed up and meet the guide so that everyone is ready to go in the mornings, and then we get up early and have breakfast. Ideally, we'll try and get away just before sunlight, so that we're very lucky in the fact that typically you don't have to drive long distances to get into either the fishing or the hunting. In the fact, our properties, where the lodge is right where our property is, and so everyone takes a packed lunch, and then you're away for the day. And with your guide, we always have guides working with the client, so you're either on a 2-on-1 or a 1-on-1 if you're a bow hunter, and it depends on the client what they want, but typically it's a good idea to hunt 2-on-1, where that is 2 hunters, 1 guide, just because packing things out, it's always good to have your mates with you to help carry stuff out. Yeah. And typically, and then we've got some, we've got a mountain tent, and we're just building a log cabin, and so you can during the heat of the day get away into the log cabin or the mountain tent, or park up and enjoy a bite of lunch and have a bit of a rest, and then get back into the evening. So, and in the summertime, it's not dark till sort of 9:30, so you've got huge daylight hours. Of course, at this time of the year, it's not light till 8 o'clock, and sort of in the morning, and dark by sort of 6. So it does change a wee bit during the season. So we're very lucky. We've got a good network of tracks, and look, for some people, they want to just sneak off into town for an hour to get some supplies or something like that. But we have pretty much everything. We've got a local town only 5 minutes away, and another Lake Wanaka. So if you're ever thinking of coming to New Zealand, Google Lake Wanaka. Lake Wanaka is one of those special lakeside resort towns, which just has beautiful cafes. And
let's talk a little bit about the dome homes, but we want to talk more when we come back next time. But explain how they work and why they fit in so good into the environment down there.
Well, we imported the domes from Ashland, Oregon, and Bucksmith Villa, who was the architect, developed these. And Pacific Domes, the company that we work with, have built these domes. And we looked at them in Oregon, and then we've looked at them in Africa when we were over there. And we decided they were so unique and special that they would be perfect for our environment down there. So we wanted to build a safari type camp, and we looked at. We stayed with Mike Burt at Hunt the Sunt and got some good ideas from those guys, and we went and looked at some tented camps up in Tanzania, and we had some great experience. And so building a big flash lodge was not what it was about for us. It was about being able to create spaces for people to enjoy their own space, yet come together in a lodge for the evenings and that side of it. So we put a lot of thought into that, and it's in our camp, which is on the shores of Lake Hawea in that photo there, and it's a really cool part of our business. The stars down there are unique. So you've got curtains only halfway up, and that allows you to enjoy the ambience. It's got a gas fire, it's got a heat pump and an air conditioner. In the good old days, we had these lovely cottages and my parents' accommodation, but this sort of brings everyone together, and you can just sit around the outdoor fire and enjoy a glass of wine and just enjoy the bird life. There's amazing bird life in our park down there, and so for us it's a pretty special area, and we've also got some hot tubs where you can enjoy a soak after a big day on the hill.
And they're wood fired hot tubs, aren't they?
Yeah, and that means it's just straight pure water, and it takes heats you up, and you can enjoy the night sky, and people love it. It's a good good experience.
You know, when your dad and I fished, your dad would take me fly fishing, and this was pitch black, and you could tell if you were halfway decent fisherman or what. But I could never get over the stars down there when we'd be out fishing at night. We'd be out maybe up to our hips, wade out to fish. But then the stars, it just seemed like you could reach up and touch them. They were so close and so clear. It was just beautiful at night. And I can't imagine how the dome homes, people got to be blown away by that view down there.
No, they're very special, and it's been a bigger project, Dick, than we probably initially thought, and we're keen to get the borders open and get them going. We've got we're getting Kiwis, that's New Zealanders and Australians coming to stay, and they're loving them, and so we can't wait to get the borders open and have some of our international guests back into New Zealand.
Have any idea when you think that might be?
Well, our vaccination program is well underway, and my mum and dad have had their first vaccination, and other friends are starting to get rolled out. So that's really exciting. And we've only ever lost 26 people in New Zealand from COVID, and so we've got an amazing story to tell down here. Of course, our government are being very cautious about how they do open up, because we have been one of the lucky countries that haven't had high fatalities and
lucky and smart. Right.
Well,
right.
And so we're all working really hard to make sure that we can get that, and so that it is about the vaccine rollout, and then Treasury, government department, that they have sort of modelled opening up to certain countries early next year. So we're optimistic, but also slightly nervous in the fact that we just don't know, because no one's actually given us a green or a yellow light. But American Airlines the other day opened up a new flight from LA to Christchurch as a direct flight, and
Good.
So the airlines are normally a really good indicator of what, and we see a lot of the countries around the world now acting responsibly and working well through their vaccine program. We have this bubble open with Australia, and that's going really well. So we're optimistic it's going to get going again. And the tourists are so welcome down here, because they bring much needed support for many of our tourism businesses.
Yeah, and who would have thought that the whole world would stop spinning? You know what I mean? From us in Costa Rica to you guys and you and I have been talking about this plan for a long time, probably since 2015, and
yeah,
it's finally happening, and getting going, and that's all. That's what I always keep telling people is now is the time to go out and enjoy these things. We've learned that from the past, that especially the last 18 months, that nothing's a gimme, and if you can enjoy it and you want to go to New Zealand, or if you want to go to Iowa, that's what you need to do. And so kind of tell us, Richard, how to get hooked up and how to contact you guys and how that all works, on your trip, because I know you're so hands-on with people, talking with them and making sure that you customize the trip to their needs. How do they start that?
Oh, the best thing to do is email us, and we do probably ask lots of questions, because we want to know what is it that you want out of this journey, and and what type of experiences you want. And so we try and build the whole package around that and the time of year. We try and understand the types of accommodation. And for Sarah and I, it's not just about selling Glen Dene. It's about many people that are going to come down and fly 14 hours overnight to arrive down in New Zealand, are wanting to spend another week traveling around. So we've got a really good team that around us that will help build a trip, and we can recommend other destinations. Some people we say, have a night in Queenstown before you come here and get back on your feet, and or if you want to hire a car, we drive on the other side of the road. Well, it's easy. There's camper vans and motorhomes. Our motels are different from your motels, and we can recommend Airbnbs. We can recommend great hotels.
Yeah, you guys
and
are awesome. Well,
Yeah.
that's what makes you guys shine, is you spread the wealth. You know that it takes everyone to make it. It's you do the trip for the right reason. It's like you said, you both do enjoy the people that are there, and people pick up on that right away. They know they're not a number.
Yep. And I think you brought up the email address, info@glendenehunting.com. Is that?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So we brought that up on the banner for folks to see if they want to check that out.
Well, is there anything that you want to add? Because we're like I said, we're planning on doing this quite a bit and sharing hunting stories as we go. Is there anything that we missed?
Well, there's plenty to chat about. It's good to catch up. And as always, Dick, we advertise on Sporting Classics, which we really enjoy as a magazine. And so we like working with them. And we hope to get to the trade shows this coming season. So we will be at the trade shows. So we love hearing. It was lovely hearing from Bonnie today on that. And it's always good hearing from clients. We try and stay in touch with people, and part of our trip is, we do love just catching up with people. We're people, and we enjoy hearing what's happening and seeing families grow, and it's always nice to touch base. And I just can't wait to get going again, because New Zealand's such an awesome place, and it's a great destination for couples and families, where we can you can just come and enjoy a great week.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
So much adventure, but so much safety goes into. I mean, like the Siberian trip that we did with. I think we helicoptered in. I don't remember how far it was exactly, but then walked 7 miles out and then hopped on a jet boat and rode back to the bottom. I mean, it was just a perfect day, something to do,
Something, that's right. Something to do. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about that trip and us at Glen Dene, we're qualmarked, and qualmark is an independent evaluation of a tourism business every year. And it means that they're meant to be safe and good businesses to work with. So we work with qualmark type businesses like the Siberian Experience, and Sarah, my wife, puts together an amazing non-hunter program, and that's a great thing. If the wives don't want to hunt every day, then we have this really good program for the wives, and there's so many wonderful things. Walking in the rainforest, doing the vineyards, the shopping in New Zealand is just completely different. We don't have all these.
And people don't understand that from your lodge, you can be in the rainforest in probably just a little over an hour, or you can be down south in the Fjordlands, which you'll think you went to Norway, where all the Harry Potter stuff, or you can be in Queenstown, which is just a fun city. Like you and I, it become a tradition when the hunters would come, we have to go do the zombie shoot, down at the 3D. So there's something for everybody, and that's what's so nice about Glen Dene is it's not just harvesting an animal, even though that's very important. It's an experience, and we want people to know that.
Yeah.
It's a vacation, and it's a fun vacation. It'll take your breath away. The land will.
Well, and the nice thing is we've added in the taxidermist so that we can handle everything all the way through. And you know what it's like when you're hunting internationally. How that whole process of harvesting a nice game animal and then getting it back home safely. So we're more than happy to work in with your taxidermist back in the States, and we can expedite it back, but we do it all in house. So it just makes the whole process so easy and more enjoyable.
Yeah.
So
we always talked about that attention to detail and streamlining stuff. And there's some pictures of the taxidermist. I mean, it just makes it so much more handy, And so maybe real quick, Richard, is go over the species that you have on the ranch, on the farm, that people can choose when they want to hunt.
Yeah, the red stag is one of the key things that people love about coming to New Zealand. But we've got fallow deer, we've got the Himalayan tahr and the chamois, and as well as we have South Pacific goats, which are a fantastic mountain goat that is a really good hunt. And then we've got the Arapara rams, and they were there's a great story behind them, how they were. As we said earlier, there was no mammals, so they came in the first early boats, were dropped off by sailors and onto the different islands for food. And so we don't have as big a range of game animals as North America. I think you've got 29, but the ones that we have are absolutely beautiful. And then in the North Island, you've got the sika and the samba and the rusha, and then you've got whitetail down in other parts. But you've also got wallabies and rabbits and possum hunting. We've got very good bird shooting, and of course the fishing is to die for. And you can see each one of those clients have worked hard, and they've got an amazing story behind their hunts. And that's what I love about New Zealand.
That's our goal, is to bring. I don't want this to turn into a commercial. I want to bring on the hunters, and I want to talk about experiences and slow the world down a little bit, and that's pretty much the basic of this show, is to get to know the outfitters and then get to listen to the stories, because there's so many good ones in there of people's memories, and a lot of times it's hard to convey that unless you're really talking to the people, and so that's the goal of this deal too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, we've been at it for an hour, and so
it went fast.
It did. It really did. I know there's a lot more information, but like was said earlier, Richard, we'd love to have you back, and definitely plan on having some more conversations, talking more about some of the hunts that are going on now, and especially when they open up. And if anybody has any questions, they can, of course, go directly to glendenehunting.com, and they can find out more information there, or email info@glendenehunting.com, and they'll respond promptly. Let them know that you heard about it on the branch at Elkhorn Outdoors, and let them know that you listen to the program. We would appreciate that as well. Of course, we would encourage you, if you're on YouTube, go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/hunting adventures. And you can subscribe and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/hunting adventures. And that is the Branch at Elkhorn Outdoors Facebook page. Of course, on YouTube, you can search for that as well. Glen Dene Hunting is also on YouTube and on Facebook. A lot of great videos, a lot of great pictures, a lot of great content on their pages as well. And so you can take advantage of all the resources there also. So, Dick, any last comments you want to bring up?
No, it's just always nice to catch up on these shows. It's amazing how far apart we are that we can connect like this, and I look forward to doing it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Richard, we appreciate you coming on. If you'll hold on for just a few minutes, and we're gonna go ahead and get off the program. But again, folks, we appreciate everybody tuning in and listening. And be sure and get a hold of us. Let us know what you think. Maybe some hunts you'd like for us to talk about or describe. We'd be happy to get in that and talk about that. And we got a lot of adventures that we're going to be talking about in the future. But until next time, thanks for watching The Branch at Elkhorn Outdoors.